It is the only way you will truly have victory, my Padawan.
Welcome back to WD MagicCast for the week of October 30th, 2022. This is episode 201. Happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome November. WD MagicCast, the show about the mouse, the Marvels, the galaxy, and beyond. I'm your host, Matthew Gracon. In this week's show, Dave and I sit down and talk the latest animated show to come out about Star Wars. That's right, we're talking Tales of the Jedi, this 6-piece short series of shorts that just debuted on Disney+. We give you the highs, the lows, and our general thoughts about the show. And we'll be back after these words from our friends and sponsors.
Hello there, Disney Marvels podcast friends. This is Anthony King, host of the new podcast, Force Ghost Conversations. Each week, this show will be your home for cozy, deep dive discussions into all things Star Wars. We will break down the latest news, announcements, movies, TV shows, comics, books, and everything else in a galaxy far, far away. We can be found on every major podcast listening site, and you can also join the conversation with us via Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search Force Ghost Conversations. We look forward to having you join us around the campfire then for some Force Ghost conversations, and may the Force be with you.
And now, on with the show. I often say, in Filoni we trust, and that he never seems to let us down. And another prime example came out just this past Wednesday, a week ago, with Tales of the Jedi, 6 shorts that Dave Filoni said he scribbled on a napkin at a bar somewhere, and some concepts, some backstory ideas for characters that we knew and were established, but we didn't know yet. These stories have now been made their way to Disney+. And it's been an experience watching them. I think that's one way to put it. And speaking of someone who's the experience of watching, to discuss the Jedi Tales, I have brought along a Jedi Master himself who likes to wield a red lightsaber, though says he is for the good guys. Dave, welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Matthew. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah, so the Tales of the Jedi came out. It's 6 episodes, but they're shorts, and by shorts it means they're under 20 minutes. I think the longest one was maybe about 14 to 16 minutes, and on the short end, I think 12. So they're not very long. And for me, I'm not sure how you felt on the times. For me, some of them felt a little, I think even on the short end, they seemed long, maybe because they didn't want to put in that much content. But on some of the other ones that it didn't seem like it was too short and we could have gotten some more. Yeah, how did you feel with the timing?
The timing for most of them were pretty much spot on for me, but there was just one of the episodes I wish was maybe about a minute or two longer. We'll get into that later, but I felt shortchanged in that one because I was like, no more, But
I think I might know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. So, but if I had, one critique, Filoni should have had a bigger napkin so that he could have did more episodes.
We don't know if he had a second napkin.
I hope he did. Flip that sucker over. Give us some more.
I'm going to take a guess that you enjoyed these.
Oh yeah. This hit it, man. How do I explain it? It was just, all of them were just intriguing, and They didn't skimp out on the production value of it, because you're thinking, oh, they're shorts, maybe they'll skimp out on, graphics or whatever, and it just everything on the on high def TVs or whatever. Oh man, it just visually was stunning.
I started watching the first one, which was the birth of Ahsoka, on my phone, and I'm like, oh, it's all right. But it was late at night. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pick this up later, because at the beginning of that one wasn't anything really too compelling. I'll just pick this up later. So I watched the rest of it on my big screen TV in the living room, which it's a 70-inch TV, so it's quite sizable, a lot bigger than my phone, and the details really come across, and it just they've come so far with the animation quality. The characters look relatively the same as what they do. Characters look in the Bad Batch, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more detail. But compared to the early days of the Clone Wars, where these characters can be found, since it follows Ahsoka Tano and from birth forward. And then you also have Count Dooku, and not from his beginnings. He's already a Jedi Master by the time we see him in this, but kind of his turn. How he gave up being a Jedi to becoming a Sith Lord.
Because that was never covered in the movies, as far as
I
know,
you,
right?
you heard of it, you knew of it, but you didn't know how recent, apparently,
right,
it really did happen. So the animation against Clone Wars is superior. Some of the background effects, the one episode when things were on fire, was beautiful.
Yeah,
absolutely beautiful. So there was a number of scenes that just the scenery was really striking.
Yeah, and the ship that they fly in, that Dooku and Mace were flying in that one episode. The way, oh my god, I don't know what the name of that ship is, but it just looks beautiful flying in. Yeah, I was like, if Bad Batch season 2 is filmed in this same kind of quality, man, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I don't know, but I'm gonna guess probably not, because I think they're using a different animation house.
Okay.
For Bad Batch versus this stuff. I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe they will be, and if so, then good for everybody. In this case, this stuff, the animation was spectacular. The stories, to me, lived up to expectations. Actually, went beyond my expectations. I was a little curious how they were going to do it, but it's in chronological order. And you watch the first two and you don't realize it, but by the time you get to the third one, it's just like, okay, I see how this is playing out.
Yeah.
And it is all six of them are presented in a chronological order of events and things happening. Dooku is one of those that, it's become one of those that he's he's in the wrong, but you understand why he did the things he did. So he's one of those bad guys. In some ways, I guess you could say Thanos is the same way. He's not right, but he's not completely wrong either.
Exactly. Yeah. And they managed to explain it in shorts, his turn, which is, phenomenal. We didn't need a 3-hour movie on how Count Dooku became a Sith Lord,
No. But it explains a lot of his actions. They take key parts of things that were mentioned in Attack of the Clones, and you actually see it play out
right
in this. And something I thought, and I heard this ahead of time, that these were not necessarily going to be, these are a little more grittier than what we're used to Star Wars being. And I couldn't figure out what they meant, but by the time we got to the fourth one, which I think was the one that you see Dooku, yeah, I think the fourth one is the Sith Lord episode.
Yes.
Where, yeah, Sith Lord, where Dooku switches over. That's kind of brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
That,
even
that one,
the first episode, there was like a scene in there too where you were like, well, I don't remember ever seeing that happening in like Star Wars cartoons. You know, I don't know if you know the scene of you with the deer.
oh yeah, the hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, and it gave me very much, to me, about like it felt very like a Native American setting.
Mhm.
Just the way that they were talking about respecting nature,
Right.
and this one will feed lots, and it's serving its purpose, and
Mhm.
things beyond just well, we need to eat. It was explaining things in a grander scale.
Right. Yeah. I had zero issue with it. It was just like,
No,
oh, okay, this is not usually in Star Wars, but okay.
no, it was very interesting to see, and I'm like, wait a second, when the one thing happened to Ahsoka, and I'm like, okay, how are we getting away with that?
Hmm.
And I thought it was really cool how that kind of played out, and it explains why Ahsoka is such a powerful character.
Hmm.
It just because, I mean, she is, but it's not something that, okay, she is, but you just get more sense of that character, and it these 6 episodes, or the 3 that focus on Ahsoka, which is 1, 5, and 6. I once I started watching the bits of Clone Wars that she was into, because I couldn't watch the whole thing whenever the season came out, but I watched a lot of the stuff that they said were key episodes.
Hmm.
Um, very quickly she became one of my, if not my favorite character in Star Wars. And the more I learn about this character from either new stuff or going back and watching old stuff, the better she gets.
Yeah, that was when, because I mean, I don't probably have all the episodes committed to memory, but I did. I was there from the beginning of Clone Wars to the end. And in the beginning, when she was introduced, we were like, I don't know about this one,
Yeah.
because you still had Obi-Wan, you had Qui-Gon,
Yeah, the characters that you knew and you already
right.
established with. It's like, who's this new
Yeah, who's this
teenage girl that's
right,
gonna be
right. But
messing up and getting in the way? And
as the seasons went on, though, you're like, all right. She became that, what do you call it? The pop culture figure or whatever that everybody drew to, that, she took off and everybody took a back seat to her almost.
she really is an iconic character.
Mhm.
In a newer sense, because well, Clone Wars, I guess at this point is what, over 10 years. So, she's been in and around for a little while, but a character that's never been in one of the movies,
Right.
except for her voice. But physically, she's never actually appeared in any of the movies. She only just recently appeared in live action in the second season of Mandalorian. So she's pretty much been limited to the animated scenes. But to have such a following is just speaks to that character, and you can't really pick out too many weak points
No.
in her presentation. And like I said, and to me, watching the 3 episodes, I guess let's focus on her. Let's focus on Dooku first, and then we'll come back
Okay.
back to her episodes, because hers technically finished out, even though she's got the first one, but she finishes out the stuff. The Dooku ones, I thought were very methodical. in the way that my wife made her Harry Potter reference, and she's watching, and Kim goes to me, she goes, "He sounds like Snape." And even the way from
Yeah.
Snape from Harry Potter, even the way that he's drawn, and the way
Yeah.
that he is the droll, the droll of how he speaks and says his words is very much that of the character of Snape from the Harry Potter movies.
Mhm.
It's it, it's quite funny, but
Mhm.
it is.
Mhm.
Just looking at the way that his face was even drawn in the second episode, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
that's
no facial hair, clean shaven. It was just a different. It was him, but it
the
was just
shape of the
different.
nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much. Um, so I had to double check. I'm like, well, no, he couldn't be. Oh, I'm forgetting the. I forgot the guy's name. Um, I'm trying to look it up here quickly.
Who are you trying to think of?
The actor who played him. Here he is. Alan Rickman. That's who it is.
Okay.
Like he couldn't be Alan Rickman because well he's dead.
Mhm.
Um, it's but the guy who was voicing him actually did such a great job.
I have Corey Burton. Corey Burton. I
Yeah,
don't know. That's who I got up on mine.
yeah. Corey Burton voices him. Well, he does a couple characters. Um, I- Look at Corey Burton's line of work. So Corey Burton, besides Dooku and the Armed Villager, whichever one that was, in Tales of the Jedi, Mickey Mouse Funhouse, he does primarily Ludwig von Drake and Dale, but I mean, and that's what he's done for a number of the animated stuff. Uh, Count Dooku in the Lego stuff. Book of Boba Fett, he voiced Cad Bane.
Wow.
New Animaniacs,
Mm.
he does some work in there. Bad Batch, Cad Bane again. Gob Guile. Uh, DuckTales, Ludwig von Drake. Looney Tunes is a ghost, okay. Kingdom Hearts, he's Yin Sid. And Ansem the Wise. Phineas and Ferb, he did a few bits on there. Going back to Clone Wars, Cad Bane, Nyx Card, Lord Tyrannus, Count Dooku, numerous characters from there. Um, what else here? Ralph breaks the internet. He's grumpy.
Was he really?
Yeah, I mean, this guy has got such the
The resume.
yeah. It's. I
And
mean,
it's funny, now that you say that, I can kind of, with the Cad Bane, if you would have told me that it was the same, I would have said no. But now that, it couldn't be. But now I can kind of see it's just a different angle of the voice, but you could tell it might be the same guy doing it now.
let me knock your socks off. 1986. He did a
Right.
movie that you and I saw.
Okay.
He's Spike from Transformers.
My God. How old is this dude?
Born in 55.
Wow. Okay.
So, Corey Burton. I mean, he goes back. And that's what I said. The resume for him
Wow.
is spectacular.
The picture I'm looking at, he don't look like because that's what, he's in his late 60s, early 70s. He don't look like it.
Oh, that one's that picture from.
Oh, I don't know.
So, I mean, you look up at if I go back to Harry Potter, look up Richard Harris's picture, just to prove a point. Richard Harris, who was born in 1930. That picture is not of a...
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're not necessarily the most up-to-date pictures.
Mm.
But the voice casting is pretty much everyone from Clone Wars. So Ashley Eckstein reprises the role as Ahsoka Tano. D. Bradley Baker does every clone, and a few others. Ian McDermott actually does make his in this as his characters.
I'm surprised they got Liam Neeson.
Yeah, that was a surprise, but that again a welcome surprise.
Yes.
James Earl Taylor as Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
So, Terrence C.C. Carlson, Mace Windu. So it's besides Liam Neeson, it's pretty much everybody. Oh, Bryce Dallas Howard was Yaddle. Didn't realize that. Bryce Dallas Howard.
I didn't know that.
So, yeah, great voice casting. So all the voices sound right because they are right. But yeah, no. Besides, I mean, Count Dooku, very methodical, very. I want to say logical in his decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Which it kind of makes it strange, but when you follow the progression of his character and the logic of what's going on, he seems to catch on to things not being right, particularly with the Senate, before everyone else does. And he wants to try and rectify that, not realizing that he ends up being part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And not fixing the problem. And at that point, he was kind of too late. But it kind of always explains why him and the Emperor always seem to have are at odds, or aren't, the Emperor and Darth Maul. Okay, you can see that, the Emperor and Vader.
Mm-hmm.
But Dooku always seemed to be like the outsider.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, why was that? And this really does explain it.
Because it's usually like you had the Emperor and the Apprentice. So you had the Emperor and Maul, but you had Dooku out there. So it's like, how is Dooku a Sith Lord when you know what I mean? Because there's usually only one, but there's two, So he was kind of like, I don't know. He was out there. I don't think he bought into the whole Sith Lord stuff 100%.
No, and you do get a sense of that in this, is that he is not choosing to be a Sith Lord. He's choosing to try and stop the Senate from doing what's going on, not realizing that who is helping him is the person that's actually causing the problems.
Yep.
He kind of gets caught into, sucked into the trap of that all, but yeah, you get a sense that he doesn't want to be a Sith Lord, but he doesn't, and he gets into it late in the game.
Mm-hmm. It's like, I think he was torn. He wanted change, but he didn't know how to go about it, I think. You know what I mean? And he just got pulled to that side. And that was, you know what I mean? That led him in that direction. So.
Yeah, because a constant theme was that, the Jedis are just puppet of the Senate.
Right.
And he believed in that as well. And then when you kind of go back and think about the prequels, you kind of can see that angle.
Mm-hmm.
That the Senate was controlling the Jedi, and they were just kind of doing what the Senate wanted them to do, even though they felt they were independent, but it's like not fully.
Yeah.
So you do kind of almost get that angle. So yeah, it was very interesting to get not so much full backstory of him becoming a Jedi and whatnot, but him, why he did what he did to end up how he ended up and where he ended up. I still just haven't figured out where he got that big ship with all the sails.
I don't no idea.
Because every time you see him, other than besides the end of Attack of the Clones, he's never in that ship.
Nope.
Like, okay, this is the ship you see with him in the movie. That's his iconic ship, but you never see it otherwise.
Yeah. But they and with his like they did do a good job of like showing his battle with his inner demons, like, you know, when he was choking out the senator, you're sitting there going, up, yep, there's the dark side pulling him in to want to, you know, to do that. But and then he, you know, snap out of it thanks to that. Did you know that was Qui-Gon?
Yeah.
In the second episode, I had no. I'm like, who's this dude? Because it wasn't the voice, and I couldn't recognize who. I'm like, who's this random Jedi? And then when he called him Qui-Gon, I was like, oh, okay.
I knew because I remember reading the description saying, you know, Dooku and his apprentice Qui-Gon. So
okay.
I knew ahead of time. Otherwise, no, I wouldn't have, because it just the way, like, okay, structurally maybe kind of like Liam Neeson's quite buff as a younger.
Yeah, it didn't look like him, but in the next, I think it was the next one, right? Or it was the fourth one. It totally looked like him. I'm like, yes, there's Qui-Gon.
Well, because there's a lot of time jumping in this.
That was the fourth one. Yeah, the Sith Lord. That's where Qui-Gon looked like Qui-Gon.
Yeah, because he's not in the third one. He's referenced in the third one, but in the fourth
right, but he's not in it. Yeah, because it was Mason, him, and Dooku.
Yeah. Yeah, because in the fourth one, you start off the middle of Phantom Menace, and then you end in Attack of the Clones. So there's a couple year gap there.
Yeah.
Because like when he's standing outside the tree, I'm like, well, why is he talking that way?
Yeah. I felt myself with the timeline. At the beginning of every episode, I'm sitting there going, okay, when is this? And I kept finding.
So yeah, it got a little, it threw me a little bit. And then they did again in, they didn't do it, I don't think they did it in 6, but they did it in 5. Where there's a couple of jumps there.
Yes.
But I think they did it a little better in the 5th episode in Practice Makes Perfect. But we'll get to that one in a moment. So overall, the Count Dooku 3 episode I thought was a very nicely done arc. You get the action, you get a lot of the story, the methodical, the reasoning, and you understand where he was going with things and why he ended up where he did and how he did. And because even in Attack of the Clones, he goes to Obi-Wan. He's like, oh, it's not me though.
Yeah.
It's all these other guys. This other thing going on, but it's not really me.
Yeah.
And he's kind of right.
Well, in episode 3 too, he gets shunned with the seat at the council. You know what I mean? Yep. So that pushed him even further away, because I'm assuming he felt like he got snubbed from that, where he should have been considered over Mace, you know. So that there's your little, I'm getting one step closer to going red.
Yeah, but that's the same thing that happened to Anakin. You know, he wanted to be part of the council. Oh, I've earned my spot. No, you haven't.
Yeah. And then in the fourth episode, they answered the question that remember how they were wondering where the data was about Camino. They thought that Cypher Diaz did it. Now they answered that you know, Count Dooku was actually the one that erased that stuff.
Snuck in, he used Cypher Diaz's code into the computer.
Yeah.
And he's the one that wiped it out. That's why I said, you know, they add in those little bits that really tie into the movies. And, you know, such attention to that fine detailing. And we even found out where Qui-Gon Jinn was born.
Did we? I must have missed that part. Where was it?
It was just after that, whenever he's standing in front of the tree and he goes, Qui-Gon was born
Oh,
on
that's right.
Coruscant,
That's right.
planet of steel and stuff.
That's right.
This
That's
is
right.
the only time, I used to bring him here in front of this tree, and this is how
Mhm.
he, first got to learn of nature.
Mhm.
So, it just some really nice touches to his story.
Mhm. And then you got
Um,
a nice little battle with Yaddle.
yeah, that was, I was just, I couldn't help but think, like, he really ended up battling a lot of whatever species Yoda and
Yeah, it's
Yaddle.
a species undefined.
Yes, species that we still don't have a name for. Maybe next season.
Yeah.
That in some of the same moves and stuff, but it's that was it was cool to watch, but you knew kind of where it was going to end up, and
Yeah.
that was kind of brutal.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping she made it.
Yeah, like maybe she escaped or something like
Yeah,
that.
because I saw the ship. I'm like, all right, she's gonna do a Jedi like jump over to her ship and fly away.
Right, that's what
You
I
know?
thought, or just kind of or they were battling on the edge there, kind of pull a Mace Windu to get blown off, and we never see him.
Right. Yeah.
So we don't know what happened. Um, but yeah, that didn't happen, and yeah, we definitely know what happened to Yaddle.
Yeah. R.I.P.
Yes. We
I
only
almost
knew
I I
we
almost
didn't
wish
know you
that
long enough.
yeah the door. I wish that was because like it ended. It was cool that she came back and raised it and all that stuff like that. But why do that if she's just gonna get taken out 2 seconds later?
Well, because you just exhausted. I think that spent all the strains of energy that she had left to
Yeah.
save herself there, but all for naught.
Hmm.
But it was, I guess that really, and putting in the grinning emperor,
Yeah. Yep.
just seeing, okay, things are going my way.
Yep.
I'm getting what I want. Look, I
Hmm.
have corrupted another one.
Yep.
It's just like so creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. They like I said, Filoni nailed it all, man. He in these little shorts, he gave you everything that you needed. You know.
Oh, absolutely spectacular.
Hmm.
So that anything else you wanted to mention about Dooku before we switch over to Ahsoka?
I think that will do. I think that'll do. Yeah, I just found it funny. Like he went from clean shaven to beard to like the facial features kept changing. So it was again that's a part of the timeline. And Qui-Gon going from young Qui-Gon to like full blown like Jedi Knight Qui-Gon was pretty sharp. So.
Yeah.
But that arc, it was awesome. I wanted more, but I was glad we got what we got because in a short amount of time, they answered a lot of not plot holes, but they added to a lot of the plot that has already happened for stuff that maybe you might have had a random question. I wonder what that was about, or what, and then boom, here's your
Who
answer.
really did get rid of the Hig Camino from?
Yeah, exactly.
So they added to the story without messing with the story.
100%. Yes.
The stuff that we knew they added to it. They didn't take away or mess with it too much or alter anything. They really just added to it. So that again spectacular. Filoni is just spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
So going with Ahsoka now again, episode 1 literally is the birth of Ahsoka.
Yeah.
The first thing you say, oh, Ahsoka has just been born.
Mm-hmm.
And you follow the progression, and like you said, you get the whole the mother with the hunting, and then that giant saber-toothed tigerish thing
Yeah. Which was
takes
cool,
Ahsoka
dude.
away.
Yeah.
And just to show that the animation for this is on a whole nother level. The animation and the directing is on a whole nother level for these shorts. The focus on the eyes in the forest, between the
Mm-hmm.
eyes of the of Ahsoka and the eyes of the Beast,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing is said verbally.
Nope.
But you get this communication and understanding of, at first you don't know what's happening, but then you quickly pick up
Mm-hmm.
what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's all just through the eyes. Everything else is shadowed out. You
Yeah.
just have these two eyes
Yeah.
communicating with each other.
That's what
It's
he said.
just
Good. Good.
spectacular.
The eyes I got from that saber tooth was like, you're lucky you have Jedi powers because I was
Yes.
going to eat you.
Yes. And it's like, I'm like, what? She's riding the thing back. And then
Yeah.
there she is riding
Boom.
it.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, she's just something else.
Yeah, that was one of the, like, he is a cool, I wish we could see more of him, of that saber tooth, but I doubt it. But it just
Yeah.
looked awesome on the screen.
I mean, that thing's, you don't want to mess with that. I mean, that,
No.
and her mother fighting that thing with the,
Mm-hmm.
just a knife.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, she's a goner.
Yeah.
But okay, no, she stuck around. That's a tough tribe that she's from.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But it was nice to see, her tribe or her family and all that. It was a cool little beginning story for her. And you had like the shaman, I guess she's a shaman
elder,
lady
yeah.
or whatever, Jedi. Yeah.
Like, yes, you're right. She is for some period of time.
Yeah.
And then you get the Dooku stuff. You jump the timeline until she's older and shows up in episode 5. Practice makes perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot happens and not much happens.
Right.
In that, the best way to describe it is it's trial by fire, and it really helps develop how she got so well practiced
Mm-hmm.
into the master swordsman she eventually became, and just such a so much focus.
Was that supposed to be like how she went from because just watching that episode, she started with the one saber.
Yes.
And then as she progressed, she finally took on the second saber. So was that like her introduction to her fighting style with two sabers? Did you catch that or no? Or is that,
Yeah,
am I just reading too much into that?
I did catch that, and there's the 2 time jumps in that. So you have the first part of that where she's at the Jedi Temple and she just does the little target droids that she's fighting with, and Anakin's like, well, that every Jedi does it. You're not every Jedi, and I do. You're my pupil, my Padawan. You're going to learn better.
Yeah.
And so we had the clones working on that, and then so she's getting literally stunned from the clones constantly. He's like, get up, just do it again. Yeah, well, you're out for hours and whatnot.
You're starting to wake up a little faster.
Yeah, she gets zapped, and then you see her get up, and then if you're not paying attention, you may not realize that they're in a different setting.
Yeah, that last scene, that's where it got obvious that they were moving around. Yeah.
Right. And then that's where she all of a sudden now has the 2 sabers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and but it's showing that she's still practicing. She knows that she's not. She still needs to prepare for something that's coming, not knowing what. And Anakin's there the whole time, watching over her, and that she's been cut such a. This has become not a test, but a discipline.
Mm-hmm.
That, like great athletes who, to perfect their craft of playing their sport, like the Messis, the Ronaldos, the Bradys, Josh Allens of the world, that they are out there they could do it 100 times, and it's still not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, I made through this ball 100 times and hit my mark every time, but it's still not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because Rex throws a line that, oh, you lasted 5.5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
This one time, and it took us longer. She's like, all right, let's do it again.
Do it again. Yeah.
And then, that's a brief moment that they switch to a scene that if you haven't watched the final season of Clone Wars, you're not going to understand it. And that's the Order 66 moment.
Yeah.
Where she finally got through to Rex, and he walks her into the clone army. And I forget exactly how it plays out. That she gets out of that.
Yeah. Obviously, she survives. I forgot myself. It's been a while since.
I mean, obviously she survives because she shows up in Rebels.
Exactly.
But it's everything was to prepare her for that moment.
Yeah.
And then you get episode 6, which takes place between Clone Wars and Rebels, where she's on, because it explains how she ends up where we meet her in Rebels, because now at this point she's removed herself from everything. She's in complete hiding and whatnot, and she slips up, makes a mistake, and I think you get to meet one of the.
But in Rebels, wasn't she still like not defiant, but wasn't she still standoffish about being a Jedi and all that stuff? Like, it's been a long time since I've seen Rebels.
Even at the end of Clone Wars.
Right.
Like, I'm not a Jedi. That I do not bear that title.
Okay.
And because the last season of Clone Wars, she because this is after the Jedi really exiled her.
Okay.
And then they tried to welcome her back, and she said, "Nope, you kicked me out. I'm done."
So he didn't fast forward it as far as like the Mandalorian or nothing, right?
No,
because that's kind of where my brain went. I was like, because when Bail Organa was like, are you ready to fight? And she said yes. I thought that's, what I mean, leading into that. That's what I
because
thought.
it's Bail Organa.
Yeah.
He's dead by episode 4 of New Hope.
Yeah.
So he dies halfway through that movie. We never knew he existed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it has to be Rebels, because Rebels takes place before New Hope. Where was I going? So yeah, at the end of season 4 of Clone Wars, she is, fighting the fact that, okay, I'm not a Jedi anymore, but it keeps following her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To do the right thing. Okay, you may not be a Jedi anymore by title, but your heart is a Jedi. Your heart is the heart of a Jedi. And we see an Inquisitor that I don't think we've ever seen before.
Never seen him,
and he is the nastiest, scariest Inquisitor yet.
And this is the part where, I don't know if you agree, this is where I wish I had like 2 minutes more, because just like who had the Inquisitors? Boba Fett? No, Kenobi had the Inquisitors.
Kenobi had the Inquisitors. Yep.
Where they didn't have them in there as much as we would have liked. Same thing here. That dude was fantastic. I loved him.
I think that they're all brilliant, and each one gets better and better and better. 6 is definitely the best episode.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I disagree with you. I don't want another 2 minutes of it. I want another 90 minutes.
Yeah, there you go. But these are shorts, Matt.
These are shorts. I want another 5 minutes of that battle.
Yeah, that's it. Give me I guess she doesn't have a saber, but pull a saber somewhere and fight him for a minute or whatever, That was
I was expecting a little more of, going back to Kenobi, the battle that happened there where it was kind of like a chase a little bit.
Yeah, right.
That she did something like that, like through the fire and stuff, a little more of a chase, a little more conflict. But again, you get the sense of the power that she has.
Yeah.
He comes, the way that he drags that saber in the ground
Yeah.
just
And
makes it so raw and just.
I didn't know who that dude was until I saw the blade. I'm like, who is this guy? Oh, now I know who that is.
He's one of the inquisitorial staff. Who he is, we don't know.
No clue.
Brother,
and we'll
he
never
is.
know.
At some point, someone's going to come out. Oh, this is so and so, and this and that.
Right.
But he was one nasty.
Oh yeah, he was cool. Just the voice and he was just evil,
the
man.
Stature.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yes, the one farmer saying, "But I called you. I should be rewarded." Yes, you will be rewarded. Here comes a reward. And he was just gonna run him through.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
And then she shows up, and again the fire in that was so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But it enhanced that scene so much, and that was just such a beautiful moment. And he does he unites both sides of the lightsaber, and he's just coming at her, and he's like, "You're unarmed, chick. You're going down."
Yeah, exactly.
And he swings, and she just goes, "Nope, not today."
And he knew her name. He called her Ahsoka Tano. So
like, you can't be. You're supposed to be dead. You're not her. That can't be happened.
Yeah.
But you're Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And she's like, "You're right."
So I get, well, because the Inquisitors were out there where they were searching for all Jedis, right? That were out there. Right. Okay, so then they knew. I guess they had their registry of which Jedis were still out there. So she had to be on that list of people then.
We have a class attendance list from the
check them off
from the temple from when you were all in school. We know who's left. We know who we got. We know who's left.
Yeah. Ahsoka. No.
Bueller.
But yeah, that was phenomenal.
So just on a whole, it's nice that they're the short snippets. Because it plays really fast. It's smooth, it's fast. You don't get burdened down by anything excess other than the story that you need to hear. If anything, I'd say the first one was a little on the slower side, that there wasn't as much of the development in there, because it was, as a baby, she was already displaying Jedi powers. It's like, okay, we spent 14 minutes on that.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, it's cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't, I think, as compelling as everything else that followed.
Right, but I think, how it
had some beautiful moments in that.
Right, but how that episode ended, I think, picked up for the slow start of that. But I do agree that the beginning of that first episode was a little bit of a slow burn for, I don't know, what was it, 19 minutes? But
no, not even.
I think that's what it said on Disney Plus. It was 19 minutes, but it was but still, it ended great with the tiger, and it just moved on from there.
And you get this beautiful image of baby Ahsoka with this giant beast luring over it, and she's just touching his nose.
Yeah.
And that's just such a great image.
Mm-hmm.
And not only is it just a visually in itself beautiful, it actually is very symbolic of the life ahead of her. That here's this, because she's always a small-statured character.
Mm-hmm.
This small-statured, relatively pure-hearted character. And there's always this beast, this danger looming that's so much larger than her, looming in front of her, and she faces it without fear.
Mm-hmm.
And that is standard. That is the essence of Ahsoka Tano through every time that we meet her.
Yes.
Through the arc of her character, that she is She is very much pure of heart. She is always thinking of the good. And whatever is placed in front, whatever the trial is in front of her, she goes in it without any fear, without any hesitation to face it, whether it be the Inquisitors, Vader, whoever else, the whole clone army, Order 66, Darth Maul, the Mandalorians. She doesn't back down. She holds her head high and just goes at it, and that's what I think. Like I said, what makes her so easy to become attached to and cheer for.
Yeah, and I'm curious with her character. Do they? I mean, this is going off of away from this series, but what's the end game for Ahsoka Tano? Are they ever going to get to that? Will Filoni ever show that she passes or that she just goes into hiding? That's the one thing about her character I've always wondered.
That is honestly a good question. And at this point, we don't know, because we run into that with at the end of Rebels, she disappears. Clone Wars, that's a whole nother story, because in Clone Wars the series gets canceled without getting the ending, and then when the ending comes around, and it's after the fact, and all that, so you really can't go off of that. What's going to happen in Ahsoka when that comes out in a year? I want to say, I'm trying to look it up, but it's that's fine.
Sometime next year, I thought it was coming out.
I believe so. There he is.
I thought it was after Bad Batch. Like Bad Batch 2 was coming, and I thought Ahsoka was after that. I could be
March
wrong.
12th. Yep.
There you go. Yep.
March 12th of next year. So we got 5 months. 5 months till that comes out. And it's from my understanding, it's gonna follow in from really follow up Clone Wars, and it's because you got the cast of Clone Wars in it.
Yeah.
Not Clone Wars, Rebels in it.
Rebels.
Following up Rebels. So what happens to her, we don't know, but I don't think we're done with this character, and I don't think we're going to be done with this character for a while.
No. And I'm not saying I want her to go away. I'm just curious, because that's just that one main character that we don't have like an end game for her. We don't know what happens to her character.
Well, I think that's kind of the beauty of it. That for once we actually have a character, and a beloved character that's now been around for a while. We don't know what happens to him.
Yeah, in the Skywalker universe, and we have no clue what the heck happens to her.
Which I think is kind of like kind of the beauty of Mandalorian Djarin. We don't know what happens to him. We don't know where he came from. We're learning where he came from.
Right.
Here's a character in a universe and everything that the only thing we know is that he's a Mandalorian. He's got the armor, and he was a bounty hunter, because Mandalorians are bounty hunters.
Right.
But maybe not. So
yeah. In a way, and what's good about that is it gives them the keys to do whatever. They have an open playground to do whatever they want with these characters. They're not confined like Kenobi. You're confined to the script of, we can't really screw around too much because you got the New Hope. We don't want to change
beginning, middle, and end, and okay, we can plug in some bits and pieces here, but you have a very, very definitive end.
Right. Exactly.
Very definitive beginning, and so much written already. So yeah, we're limited here. And I was talking to somebody about Star Wars who's a little more newer to everything, and you kind of knew of the movies, as explained, but there is so much more. So, well, I never watched the animated stuff. I said, what's nice about the animated stuff and kind of what's going on with Star Wars now is that you're going beyond the movies. You're in this galaxy that so much has happened. So much is going on at the same time. And we've seen a lot, but it's still only a small piece of the entire puzzle of, the Empire. The main parts of the Empire we've seen in the movies, but there's all this other stuff with the Empire that's going on that we haven't been exposed to, and that we're learning through these secondary things like the animated series, through the Clone Wars animated series, Rebels animated series, Bad Batch. And I'd say because we were talking about Andor.
Okay.
And how she said, "Oh, it's kind of interesting to see a fledgling empire. It's something we haven't heard of, seen so much." I said, "Well, you're right. We see it also in Bad Batch, where you're getting a lot of sense of that. That this is something that we knew the empire was this big bad and overhanging thing, but we didn't see how it came about. And right. Andor's given us exposure to it. Bad Batch's exposure. I said, the symbolism of." Or the references to the connection of the Empire and like the Nazis and all that type of stuff is very apparent in these situations. And she agreed with me. And, like I said, these animated parts really give additional information and explore parts of the galaxies that we haven't seen before and fill in a lot more of the overall story of what's going on. And then and that's not even getting into the books,
right?
Like the Acolyte series, which I believe is supposed to be part of the during the Old Republic. I'm really excited for that because again, that's something that particularly on film, I use that term loosely,
right?
We haven't gotten to see, but we've heard so much about it. But now we, to finally see it and experience it, see what things were like then and how things went on, is very exciting. And as I said on previous episodes, it's very exciting now to be a fan of Star Wars because there is so much new content expanding. It is now taking a life on beyond 9 movies.
Right. And thing is too is like you wonder, will they ever make another Star Wars movie? Will we ever see another motion picture, in the theaters again after, let's be honest, the sequel trilogies were not really well received. So, especially by myself. But
fair enough, but we've discussed this.
Right. But the better storytelling has been, in my opinion, has been coming from these animation shows, Clone Wars, Rebels, all, and the Mandalorian. All these, I don't know if it's because they have a longer time period, not time period, but they have more time to make these episodes to explain the stories more. That to me, it's more entertaining than trying to push out a movie in 2 hours. You understand what I'm saying or not?
No, I understand completely. And this has been my argument even with the Marvel Disney Plus series is that you're not confined to 2.5, maybe 3 hours. You're getting 6 or 6+ hours. I mean, you're almost, for instance, Black Panther 2 almost has a 3-hour runtime.
Yes.
So you're going to get a fair amount of content out of that. Factoring out 25 minutes of it as credits. Hawkeye ran 6 hours. So you're getting twice as much story being able to be time to tell a story and tell a more complete story and more of what's going on than you do in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So that's where I think a lot of these limited series, these Disney Plus series, have the benefit of of time to be able to tell a fuller story and more what's going on. Will we ever get another Star Wars movie? Yes, they are really pushing to get another Star Wars movie going. They have the Taika Waititi stuff that they're trying to get going. And he said it's going to be a non-Skywalker film. It's going to be the first not really non-Skywalker touched movie.
Right. And at this point, you have to move away from that.
And that's his argument, is that everything else is the Skywalker part. And whatever is within the Rogue One. Okay, no, there's no Skywalkers in it, but it's still part of that whole timeline.
Exactly.
Same thing with Andor. There's no Skywalker in it, but it's during the Skywalker section. It's in that tunnel,
right?
For lack of better terms, the tunnel or conduit that is surrounding by the Skywalker. It plugs right into one of the Skywalker movies.
Right.
And that's why I'd say there is so much more that's happening in the galaxy. We get glimpses and bits of it. We got glimpses in Boba Fett of a little bit of the underworld. Mandalorian has explored outside of it. We're going back to Mandor in this upcoming season. That was explored in Clone Wars. So we're getting exposures of stuff that's happening on other planets outside of the area. What else is going on? Bad Batch touched on a lot of that as well, and so is Rebels. But we haven't really left again this tunnel that is the Skywalker series.
Right.
We're getting glimpses of that. There's things outside of there, but we haven't really taken the leap to get away from it.
They haven't pulled the trigger to move on, right? So, but I mean, will I watch the movie? Obviously, I'll watch the movie. But for the time being, the products that they're pumping out on Disney Plus, all the series, I'm enjoying the heck out of them, and it scratches the itch. And if that's the route they go, that's fine. But I would like to see just a total, not a reboot, but just move away from the Skywalker. Let's start a new trilogy based on something else, a different Jedi or whatever,
Or, I mean, I'd hate to say no Jedi, because I don't know how that would play out to be Star Wars without
a Jedi, without a Force wielder.
We've had it to some extent. Like Solo didn't have a Jedi in it, but you're following a character that you knew, and there's the association and everything. So Andor, Andor again doesn't have Jedi in it that I've seen yet, but there's the association because of Death Star.
Right. Exactly.
It's they're not in it, but there's still enough connection that they are, kind of type of thing. Skeleton Crew, don't know what's going to happen in there. We really don't know anything about that.
Right, but could you make a movie, like, say you fast forward it, I don't know, 100 years past the Skywalker, and then sit there and go, just say the Jedis were a thing of the past, a myth or whatever, and you start a new, could you actually pull off a new Star Wars trilogy without having anybody with the Force powers that everybody's used to watching and looking forward to seeing? Because now you're taking away the lightsaber battles and all that stuff.
Right. And that's where I'm saying it would be, be a little weird to do that. As much as I'm all for it, to completely have no Jedi. Ideally in my head, what I would like to see is not something that's fast forward 100 years or reverse 1,000 years.
Right.
Let's make a movie that runs parallel to New Hope. You have the Empire, the big bad Empire hanging on, so you already have the established bad guys.
So keep it in the same timeline,
Yeah.
but with a different story. I got you. Okay.
From a different point,
Yeah.
we know what's happening in this small segment where Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and Darth Vader all are in this one, small section of the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very large place.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, in this galaxy,
right, in this part of the galaxy,
right,
second star to the right, straight on to morning. It's and the Empire's hands and fingers were everywhere. This was in the Outer Rim.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's going on the other side of the Outer Rim? Because it's more than just Tatooine is the Outer Rim. You have all these other planets, and we can establish a story, especially like I said, if you still use the Empire, you've relatively established your bad guy. So you come up with a new character, commander, general, whoever,
yeah.
And then you follow your hero who is, say, a prisoner and trying to escape out, and kind of like a Robin Hood type of character, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would play out well. Escapes and helps the people that are being oppressed by the Empire and sneaking around, stealing supplies and giving it to, and boosting up a planet or a sector or whatever. And I think that would fit in. And again, it's very Star Wars without having to be burdened by the Skywalker segment.
Right.
It gives you more of what's going on in this giant galaxy that we know and we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if that makes sense to you, but
yeah, no, it does. It does. It's just how would that be received from the fan base? That's the trick, because me, man, Star Wars fans are a little,
and that's
fickle.
why I'm saying if you stick with part of the timeline that you don't reset it, you don't change the bad guy, so
mm-hmm.
you keep a common element,
right?
Because if you change everything, then what do you got?
Yeah.
It's Star Wars by name and no other recognition. So you keep a common element to make your audience feel like, okay, this is my galaxy, this is my Star Wars, because it's it's the Empire or it's the First Order or whichever time frame that you're using. You use the same overall big bad of the so you use that to establish your audience, and then you can build your characters off from there and go from there. But as long if you need a connective thread outside of the Skywalker. So in this case, again, it would be because if you think about it, that's what Mandalorian did.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes.
All new characters, all new segments, but you have a Mandalorian, which is an established character. Boba Fett, best known, but then you also have the ones from the animated series.
Mm-hmm.
But so okay, you have a little bit, but even though it's post Empire, you still have the Empire there,
right? And it had no Jedi in it until they showed Luke at the end of that one. But the show was great before Luke even made an appearance.
Well, Ahsoka showed up first.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, whatever, you know what I mean.
Yeah, but it's still at the same point. The whole first season, you went without a Jedi.
Exactly, and everybody loved it. Everybody, from
exactly. But to my point, you had your connective tissue, you had your common element. In this case, being the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the bad guy. The bad guy. And I use that term loosely. It's not one specific character. The bad guy being the Empire.
Right.
the overarching antagonist being the Empire, not a specific character, and then you just pull a character out of that. In that case, it was the Doctor, and then Moff Gideon. So you build off of that, and that's what they did, and it worked brilliantly. So that it's a proven formula, and you could go into other things that have done similar stylized things that run a series, and you pull certain elements out of it to keep the connective tissue, even though you've changed so much of the other stuff. So you're not doing a complete hard reset, but you're doing enough of reset. And if you look at the 3 trilogies separately, they do follow that same formula. You have the prequels, you have, or even Phantom Menace, the Trade Federation.
Right. Yeah. That was
the Empire, but it's
and then it turned into, what was the sequel was the New Order or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And
then the sequels, in New Hope, not New Hope, Force Awakens, and all them, it's First Order.
First Order, that's it. Sorry,
but again, it was very much, it was the Empire.
Yeah.
And those who read the books kind of understand this concept better, because that's how a lot of the books play out, especially the legacy books, that even after the destruction of the second Death Star, where in the movies it seems like, oh, well, now the Empire is gone completely. They're not. There is that the main portion of the Empire is, but the Empire was so spread out amongst the galaxy that not everyone got the message.
Yeah, no. And it's very easy for somebody to pick.
Spend a lot of time trying to battle the remnants of the Empire. So the main part of the Empire has been defeated, but the Empire is still out there, and they're still battling, and they're still trying to control things. And now it's become more of a struggle because they don't have the support from atop, but they're trying to cover, protect themselves. And then you have a struggle or a battle for who takes over. Enter Grand Admiral Thrawn.
I can't wait to see him on screen.
He was one of my favorite characters from the books. Him and Mara Jade, and Mara Jade's not going to happen now, definitely, but
it would have been cool.
Yeah, but Thrawn was an excellent. Where the Emperor was more this cloaked figure of mystery. He was the very calculated and meticulous and planned out bad guy.
Yeah.
So he's been in the shadows of the, like Rogue One. He was there without being there. He's the science division. So we're getting a lot of hints now, like the white uniforms that we saw in Andor, and in Rogue One, and because that's him in the science division, that's who have the white uniforms. So him to show up now in Ahsoka, I mean, he was in Rebels, wasn't he?
Yes.
I haven't gone there yet for the Rebels, but
he was in it, but that's why I just he's coming, and I just can't wait to see him in live action.
He's a fantastic antagonist. And I'd look forward to seeing him in live action and seeing more of him.
Back on the Taika Waititi thing. Are they? Do you think they would give him a one and done like standalone movie, or are they gonna? Because I'm assuming just because of what happened with the sequel trilogies, they're gonna tread lightly and not try to say, hey, here's a new trilogy coming. You know what I mean? And hope that. Maybe just drop that one standalone, hope that the fan base takes it, and then move from there. You know what I mean?
I think they're keeping it very close to the vest at the moment. That here's a movie, and let's see from there. Now, supposedly, there's all these other ones that have been said to be in the work and whatnot, and we still haven't heard anything. Like Rogue Squadron, that was definitely that's coming out. That's here it comes, and we'll get back to you on that.
I think they're still working on that, aren't they?
We'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, that's what it'll come out in 2026.
It's not even on the ledger for it's coming out this year. 2024. Here's the block of movies coming out.
It's not even
2025. Here's the blocks of movies. It's not on any of those anymore.
Okay.
So no good idea ever dies, but it's kind of been moved to the back burner as of now, from my understanding. But Kevin Feige was supposed to be working on a movie or stuff, and then supposedly the guy who did Last Jedi, they're still
not Ryan Johnson.
Yeah, Ryan Johnson.
Oh god.
Entertaining the idea of doing stuff with him. I'll put it that way.
Please no.
So, but until it actually happens, but I think they're liking doing these series more because it is definitely put a resurgence of life
into the show. It brought it back
into Star Wars and making it more accessible to people who didn't buy into the movies.
Yeah, but just Mandalorian put it back on the map because everybody was just being really critical over Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, and then so that left a sour taste. And then all of a sudden, here comes the Mandalorian, and then all right, we're back. The buzz came,
But I think it pushed it beyond that. I think the old crotchety men like ourselves, who, particularly you, who did not like the sequel trilogies, particularly you.
Particularly me. Accurate.
Yeah. Who spoke up against the direction of things. If you didn't grow up on the movies, watching any of the movies, then why would you go see the sequel trilogies and which was much more fan service and to continue things along and stuff? If you weren't into Star Wars as a movie franchise before, you had no reason to go and watch those or to be part of it. There wasn't there was nothing in it for you. There was nothing to make an attachment. So here comes the Mandalorian. It is something new. It's on a streaming service to make it actually a lot more accessible to people who don't want to go see the movies. Oh, and then they put a cute little Muppet in it, which, as a device, he's a fantastic character. Because it's non-communicative. There's not a direct back and forth dialogue. Right. It is, it is the adult talking, and then you get just these huge range of facial expressions from probably one of the best puppets made in a long time. The huge range of facial expressions, the cooing noises, the innocence of this character, which is something that you've never had in Star Wars. They tried it with the Ewoks. It didn't play out the same way because next thing they're running with clubs, bows and arrows, and first they want to eat the main characters, and now that they're beating up on stormtroopers. So they're cute and fuzzy, which is great for the kids, but it doesn't play out the same as Grogu does.
Right. Well, there was also the mystery aspect because you don't know where he came from. You don't know where he doesn't communicate, so you don't know what he's thinking.
He's still in a stroller, and he's 50 years old.
Exactly. You know the Empire wants him. I guess they want his blood or something. But outside of that, it's just a mysterious. He's a unknown species like Yoda, and you don't know what the heck where they're going with him. To this date, you still don't know where they're going with him.
No, but you had that. You had this whole new cast of characters. Again, with the common thread of the Empire, whole new cast of characters, and you got time to learn who they are because you had 12 episodes.
Right.
Again, about 6 hours. And you don't have that in any of the movies. You had a little bit. They did a better job with it. I can put it this way in A New Hope of giving you, like, force feeding you backstory while the action's going on. And they kind of lost that art nowadays. Even in the prequels, you didn't get that. Because it's like, oh, well, here's Obi-Wan. You know Obi-Wan already. There you go. There you have it. Well, no, we know nothing of Obi-Wan. Okay,
Exactly.
We're learning a little bit. Okay, oh, he had a teacher. His teacher was Qui-Gon Jinn. Oh, and he died early. And oh no, Obi-Wan's the master, and he's teaching Anakin. Well, we knew that already, so we haven't learned anything more. Because Vader goes, oh, now the masters become, the students become the master or the teacher or whatever. So we knew that. And even Kenobi tells us, oh, he was a pupil of mine and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So the prequels didn't teach us anything more about Anakin than what we already knew from the one movie that he was in.
Yep. Yeah, true.
So again, they didn't build enough of his story, which is why whenever we got the Kenobi series, they finally cleaned it up and gave us more of his character. It's like, oh, I had a brother. Oh, at a young age, and so they were able to tell us more of it because, again, you had 6 hours. So going back to Mandalorian, it's the same thing. You had 6 hours to build out the world of established bad guy that's still kind of hanging around, but kind of in a disheveled state from what we knew him in the movies. These new characters that you haven't gotten exposed to, but they're very human. As far as, emotional highs, emotional lows. It's learning each other. It is something that we haven't gotten in Star Wars, which is a present father figure.
Yeah.
And they were both two very mysterious characters in the first season. And you get glimpses and pieces of them and learn just more and more. And it was a fantastic ride for everyone to go along with. And it really it took everyone's hands and we walked nicely through this well-crafted story.
Right. And that's the thing is, as much as I'd like, again, I might be repeating myself, but as much as I'd like to see another movie, if I'm getting a better story, I'd rather watch the series if I'm going to get a better story.
Yeah. And I think, again, that's why they have promised us movies and they're working on it, but I don't think they're pushing it as hard as if they did not have these series. And because these series have really revitalized the franchise.
Yeah.
Marvel's a whole different story because you have the movies and the series going back and forth hand in hand and different stuff. And that's a whole different ball game. And that's a franchise that still has a lot of life to it.
Yeah. And I think they're doing a good balance between their series and their movies. So,
right. Where Star Wars, when Episode 9 happened, and they were betting on the one-off movies, that they were going to do, a Star Wars story.
Yes.
Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Solo, a Star Wars story.
Yeah.
And that really didn't grab as well as they thought it did.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing left.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for Disney Plus, we may be in another lull, like after Jedi.
Another 20-year.
Jedi, there was, as you know, there was nothing. And
Nothing.
they tried animated series, the Droid Tales and the Ewoks, and the specials, but nothing was really connecting and keeping that franchise alive. It was practically a dead franchise. And then, okay, you had the remastered editions come out in the 90s, and then the prequels finally came, and they reignited the spark a little bit, but again, not enough. After Episode 3, again, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then George finally said, okay, I'm selling off to Disney, and Disney announced that, okay, we're going to make 3 new movies. So it's like, okay, great. But it wasn't necessarily the movies that the fanboys wanted. So it's like, oh, well, this and that, and complain and whine about this, and complain and whine about, hey, you got Star Wars back.
Do you think, we all know that George wanted to wait for all the technology and stuff like that, but do you think that hurt him by waiting? Because, the original thing was he wanted to do a 9-part movie about the Skywalkers or whatever. But by waiting that long, did he hurt the franchise a little bit?
Well, George was going to do a movie, every 2 years?
Well, when he does the trilogies, yeah, I think it came out once every
initially,
year or
whenever
two.
He made the first movie, we made the second one.
You're talking about it initially, yes,
yeah,
you're right.
He was going to make
right.
Every 2 years. I'm going to get you a Star Wars movie, and it's going to be moving forward, and this and that, and
right.
He was going Star Wars 15, and
But then he got caught up with the technology stuff, right? And then he was like, okay, I'm going to wait until it gets better so I can make the Star Wars movie that I want to make. Because he was limited with what he could do.
Right. And I understand that. But I don't know if I completely believe him.
Mm-hmm.
It may be an unpopular opinion and stuff, but I think he had something in his imagination. But as far as a very definitive story, I don't think he had that.
Right, yeah.
And I think part of the excuse was, the technology wasn't there.
Mm.
Because I could argue that when the prequels came out, the technology still wasn't there.
Right.
Because visually, some of that stuff doesn't hold up that well. Granted, it pushed the envelope of
that time.
Of that time of digital technology and rendering and CGI characters and CGI environments. So you start, if it wasn't for those movies, I don't think we would have the special effects that we have today.
Mm.
But at that time, like I said, I could argue it still wasn't ready where it should be. And my proof is, you take Phantom Menace, and the CGI in Phantom Menace, and you put it next to the CGI and the effects in Rise of Skywalker, or even Force Awakens.
Right.
And it's it pales.
Mm-hmm.
When the hover tanks are coming over that ridge, like that looks like the Windows 95 wallpaper.
Yeah. And it wasn't like, because some people might say, well, the sequels weren't that good because George wasn't in control of that. But, I'm a reminder that the prequels weren't that great either when they first came out. You know, a
Right.
lot
Well,
of people, there was backlash on that.
the
So
prequels, a lot of people forget, weren't completely well received, and to a certain segment of people, are still not well received. Um, it was the kids, and this is where I said that time does forgive.
mhm.
So the generation that grew up in the 90s with the prequels being their Star Wars are the ones that are now in control, and they've kicked us to the side.
Right.
And they love the prequels because that was their Star Wars. That's what they saw in the movies. That's what pulled them in, and which is great. But this is what I'm saying. Eventually, time has shown us that the group that grew up with the sequel trilogy will eventually take over because they're only 7, 8, 9, 10 years old.
Hmm.
When they get to their 20s and 30s,
Yeah,
and
they'll
they
look
have the
back at it.
money,
Yeah, they'll look back at
and
it nostalgic.
yeah, that was my, Ray and Finn and Poe and Rose. That's my Star Wars, and Kylo Ren. So at some point, now it may not take 20 years to get to that point. That may happen even in 15 years.
Mhm.
From the point that those movies came out.
But I still think if that's going to get something will have to come out to I don't know, make the sequel trilogies seem better. 'Cause I don't know if I said that right, but for me, the Clone Wars, watching the Clone Wars and all that, made the prequel trilogy better. Because I remember going back to watch those, saying these don't suck as much now, and I think it was because of the Clone Wars.
They filled in a lot more content, and I think we will get there with the sequel trilogy in due time. At the moment, we're still playing the prequel and the in between time sandbox.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised that at some point with Mandalorian and what's going on in that segment, because you have Andor and Clone Bad Batch. That stuff is taking place between Empire and New Hope, but Mandalorian and Ahsoka, and Skeleton Crew take place between Jedi and A New Hope. So at what point do we start to see the First Order show up? Because we're still getting the remnants of the Empire, but at some point the First Order takes over.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that they didn't do quite as good of a job explaining in the sequel trilogies. Is all right, you have the First Order, they have all these big, amazing, wonderful things, but what is their footing? What is their hold on everything?
Mm-hmm.
Where before it was understood that the Empire's in control of everything. Okay, we got rid of the Empire. First Order's now around, but the Republic still runs everything. So what is this First Order?
Yeah.
And they never, that's something I think they never really explain. It's like the First Order is there, okay, but what is the First Order? It's just a bunch of people with starships.
Right, but I think that would probably have to be a different, like, I don't think the series that are going now, can they lead the Mandalorian into the First Order? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if they could tie that in.
No, but what I'm saying is that maybe not the Mandalorian, but another show.
Name it
kind
First
of like
Order.
I guess like even Andor is doing, huh?
Right. Name it First Order.
I mean, at this point, you probably could even start doing that with Skeleton Crew. I mean, it's again something we know nothing about.
Right.
Start introducing the First Order, and it's like, because really, in my understanding, is that the First Order is just the evolution of the Empire. So
Right.
the Empire is gone. What's left? Okay, we're calling ourselves the First Order, or were they a special segment of the Empire? Again, the Empire was all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we saw the demise of the Emperor and the destruction of the Death Star 2 and Jedi, you still had all these other guys going around out there. So, was the First Order a wedge of the complete pie that was the Empire? It's like, okay, well, we're the strongest now. It's our job to try and rebuild and move things forward. And to me, that makes sense.
Right. It's probably the same mission. They're just different. It's just called different now.
Right. But we never got that piece of the puzzle to put that together and really flesh that out. And I think if we get that going and that fleshed out, if we could explain the bad guy more, everything else with the good guys falls a little more into place. Like there was the resistance. What are they resisting? They're the ones in control. Yeah. And I think that's where the sequels kind of missed the boat. Is that the resistance is actually the guys in control, because the Republic, the rebels took over. they sieged Coruscant, and they're the ones that took over. Right? It's like, we're resisting. You're the ones in control. How are you resisting yourselves? Right. The New Orders, the First Order is actually the rebellion.
Exactly. Yeah,
they roles, but
they switched. Yeah. And that might help. That might help to turn the opinions, but it's until that comes out, it's it's hard to. I don't know.
Rational old men like yourself are going to be
right. Exactly.
There's stuff out there. There's stories out there that can be told, and they could explain more and go off on it more. It's just a matter of time. I mean, again, swinging back around to Tales of a Jedi. What they did in those 14-minute blocks was magic. Pure storytelling, just completely magical. It again spoke volumes, and it was well balanced. So I guess let's sum it up. What would your number grade on a scale of 1 to 10? How would you rate Tales of a Jedi?
Wow.
10 being the best, 1 being the lowest.
Yeah, I'd have to give it a 9.5 because I really enjoyed that. If the first episode wasn't as slow in the beginning, I might have gave it a 10 because I enjoyed. There wasn't a second I was being critical. I soaked it. I enjoyed the heck out of it. So it's hard to kill it.
Yeah, no, I think I'll give it the full on 10. Even with the slightly slower parts of that first episode, but it didn't. The whole episode didn't drag. It was just the first several minutes.
I agree.
So maybe half of it.
Okay. I'll shave off a quarter for the slow beginning and a quarter of a point for the Inquisitor being taken out in 2 seconds. Yeah. So there's my half point.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say 9.5. 9.5 is probably more accurate. Yeah. But it's beautifully done. The animation's beautiful. The storytelling is spot on. I mean, it's not perfection, but it's right next to it.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree. And like I said, I hope he had either another napkin or another side of that napkin so we can get 6 more episodes because, phenomenal.
If we could get a season 2 and you had to pick 2 characters to do a season 2 with, and in the same format, 6 short formatted shows.
In the Clone Wars era, like out of those characters in that.
Let's stick with the Clone Wars era. Yeah.
That's a tough question. 2 guys.
Oh, it doesn't have to be guys.
Well, 2. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Two
characters.
I liked Maul, so if they wanted to throw me a Maul, I'll watch a little bit of him. And I didn't mind Cad Bane. I wouldn't mind seeing Cad Bane again.
Okay.
A little backstory to my man there.
Yeah, that would be. I'd be down with those. See,
Mhm.
I was thinking Windu.
Yep. But see, him I would say, but I want him in live action.
Like his apprenticeship.
Right. Yes. Gotcha.
A little bit of his apprenticeship, or like, was he doing something during Phantom Menace other than sitting around in the temple,
right,
contemplating the wonders of life?
Did they ever say who was his master? Like, who did he train under? Did they ever say that? Because I can't recall, and that would be a nice little.
I want to say they at some point it came out, but I couldn't tell you who.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, it's like, he was trained by.
Mm-hmm.
And then, maybe Maul. Yeah, probably Maul. I because, or act. Now here would be something, and I don't know if this would work with Tales of the Jedi. First of all, because it has nothing to do with Jedi's. But the the Comedians, whatever, I forgot what they're. But
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. How they got roped into making the clones, like who came to them and sat down, because supposedly it was a Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
But it could have been, it could have been Count Dooku, because that doesn't match up to the best of my knowledge, unless it was something that we didn't see in this, because he said, "Oh, I've done this and he's done stuff."
Mm-hmm.
But what is that stuff? So I mean, you're kind of led to believe it's him, but we don't. We haven't been shown that or told that definitively, to the best of my knowledge. So how the whole clone army came about? How did they pick this guy? How did they pick Jango Fett, and how did they, do all this stuff? So I think that would be something interesting to get a little more information on.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, whatever, any of it, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll watch it.
It's all good stuff, and as I said, it's a fantastic time to be a Star Wars fan, because we are just giving so much wealth of goodness.
Mm-hmm.
In the future looks promising with everything that's on the horizon. The anime Star Wars is getting a second season, so we'll get more of that, just stylized and nothing to do with anything other than really cool storytelling with really cool animation. And getting, like I said, Mandalorian season 3 is literally right around the corner. Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, Bad Batch season 2, which is again not too far off. And I'm sure I'm forgetting stuff, but that's the video game, Fallen Order.
Fallen Order
2.
Yeah.
Because that's canonical.
Mm-hmm.
So where does that go? And that's something I would love to see cross over a little more as well.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of good stuff. Good stuff.
And I don't think they're oversaturating it with all this because they're spreading it out nicely where,
Yes.
You're not getting hit over the head and you think you got to catch up on everything, so they're doing it right. Just as long as they stay the course, I'm happy. Not that their main mission is to make me feel good, but still, I'm happy.
With Filoni and Favreau in charge, we got people who really care about the franchise, who really looking after it, who appreciate it for what it is. And as much as they're making it their own, they're not trying to make it, at least it's not giving the impression of they're trying to make their mark on it. They're trying to expand it with the most delicate way possible and the most fun way possible. They're really looking after it.
Mm-hmm.
And treating it with what's been done, treating it with respect, and understanding the job ahead of them and what's been given to them, and to this is someone's child, and to treat it properly and as such.
Yeah, I think they know what the fan base. They don't 100% know what the fan base wants, but they have an inkling of what we want to see, and they have done a great job showing us what we want to see. You know what I mean? So,
yep.
Yeah, again, I'm on board as long as they keep, giving us what we want to see in that realm. I'm all on board, man.
Bring it on.
Bring it.
Dave, thank you again for coming on. Thank you for discussing this. Fantastic conversation as always.
Yes. Thank you for having me on. Good stuff.
My pleasure, and we'll be talking soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you again to Dave for joining me in our discussion about the Tales of the Jedi. What did you think of Tales of the Jedi? What was your favorite episode? Did you learn something? Let us know. Join the conversation. Our Facebook group is facebook.com/WDMagicCast. On Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, we are at WD Magicast. And also make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can find us also at WD Magicast. Leave us a voice message through the Anchor app or Anchor.fm website, or record a message electronically and email it to us at email@wdmagicast.com. You can also check out our website at wdmagicast.com, where you can find links to all of these, plus any suggestions or questions that you may have. There's a form you can fill out there and send it to us, or just email us at email@wdmagicast.com. Links to all these, including the new shiny website, are in the show notes. I want to thank you for your time. I know how little time we all have nowadays, and the fact that we've got to spend some of this time together really means a lot to me and to the team over here, to all of us. I cannot thank you enough. But I can please ask of you, go to Apple Podcasts, go to Stitcher, leave us a rating or review. We have all 5-star reviews at the moment. Keep them coming. The more reviews that we get, it helps other people find out about the show. Apple will do their job and start promoting the show more. Same with Stitcher. Or you could do it too. Go on the social networks. Share out a link to the show of your favorite episodes and let people know about the WD Magicast. Also tell your friends about everything that's going on here. Join our social media. And because the more people listening to the WD Magicast, the better. Walt believed in a big Disney family, so do I. Don't forget to subscribe to the show while you're at it. This way you always know when new episodes are posted. And while you're at it, also consider becoming a premium subscriber. Really help the show out. You can do this over at anchor.fm/WDMagicast/support, or find our Patreon page. You can also check out our merchandise shop. Get yourself some fun WD Magicast stuff with the new logo on it. It's fantastic. I've gotten myself a whole bunch, and it looks... I may be biased, but it looks great. And hey, the holidays are coming up. It will make a fantastic gift. On a shirt, on a hoodie, on a a jacket, on a sticker. If you like the vinyl stickers, if you like mugs, we got it there. Check them out. Links to all these are in the show notes as well, and on our website. Remember, this show is brought to you by listeners like you. In Japan, broken objects are often repaired with gold. These flaws is seen as a unique piece of the object's history, which adds to its beauty. Consider this when you feel broken. Be your own hero. Never give up. Never give in. Now, I'd like to end this week's show with a quote from Walt Disney himself. If I can't find a theme, I can't make a film anyone else will feel. I can't laugh at intellectual humor. I'm just corny enough to like to have a story hit me over the heart. Again, that's from Walt Disney. Thank you again for listening, everyone, and I'll see you next time.